Hello YouTube, my name is Carlos. I'm the lead designer of Black Snow Games. I'm here to show you the making of a video of We Are Not Alone. If you haven't played the game, we encourage you to visit our sponsor's website and try the game. So let's start. The first step of the development process is to have a clear idea what we want to create. We always wanted to create a tower defense game. This idea was many months in our to-do list, but at the same time I'm a huge fan of sci-fi games. Games, for example, like StarCraft, Crysis, Portal, Half-Life, Dead Space. So, We Are Not Alone is the result of tower defense games and sci-fi games. So, the second step after have a clear idea of what we wanted to create is to make some basic sketch. These sketches are basically some drafting in a whiteboard, and this process helps us to visualize, to approximate how many scenes the game will require, and try to visualize how the games will look like. For example, in the left side we have the basic sketch of the upgrade center, and in the right side we have the final result. As you can see, it's not exactly the same, but it's quite similar. As I said, the basic sketch is to help us to improve, to help us to visualize how the game will look like. So after determining the core idea of the game and to make some basic sketch to visualize how the game will look like, we design a prototype version, which is a very basic version of the game with the most basic features. For example, here you can see some of the turrets, initial turrets that we developed. But the prototype is very important because it helps us to determine if the game concept is fun or if it's not, or to determine some design mistakes. For example, in the early designs, we put this shop button, and when you click it, appear this secondary window which has the armory, and player can pick which weapon to buy. But the problem with this system is that this window is blocking the battlefield, so players cannot see what's going on the battlefield. So we resolved this problem in the second prototype. So prototype is very important to detect in a pre-production phase this kind of mistakes. So here, for example, this is a visual demonstration of the anti-overlapping algorithm. We decide that players cannot put two weapons at the same place. So to avoid this behavior, we implement this anti-overlapping code, and let me show you with this video how this works. You can see this is the second weapon, and it detects the intersection with the other weapons, so players cannot put two weapons which are overlapping. So This is the second prototype. Is closer than the final result. It's not the same, but it's closer. For example, here we resolve the problem of the blocking shop window mistake. In this prototype, we implement more features in the game, but still being very basic, a very basic version of the game. So let's talk about the art. All the graphics in We Are Not Alone were made using Inkscape, which is a vectorial software, with vectorial graphical software. So I would like to show you how is. Here, for example, this is Inkscape. Okay, let me zoom out. So every single piece of the game is here. We make it every single piece from scratch. For example, let me show you. This is the early prototype. This is the art of the early prototype. It's very, very basic. This is the second prototype, which looks better. Here, for example, you will find all the pieces behind the weapons, the atomic explosion, all the weapons here. For example, here you will find this kind of hologram that represent the range of this weapon, and this graphic appears when you want to create a new instance of this weapon. So, for example, here is a comparative version of the. This is not the final version, but it's very close to the final version, and this is the second prototype. This looks quite similar. So prototypes is very useful to visualize how the games will look like. For example, here we have all the buttons in the game, every single piece from scratch. So let's talk about the enemies. If you see the enemies, it looks quite like insects, and we decide to make this because if you play StarCraft, the Zerg aliens has some kind of similarities with insects, and we wanted to. I'm a huge fan of that game, and we wanted to try to simulate these kind of enemies. I know it's not the same, so we didn't try to make it exactly the same, but it has some influences. The insect look is quite similar, like the Zerg in StarCraft. Obviously, we decide to use a cartoonish style because we thought that cartoonish style fit better for a web game. For example, this bad guy, is a cartoonish version of one big boss in Crysis. If you play Crysis 2, you will find a similar big boss like this guy. Obviously, it's not the same. This is much more simple, but the idea is to make something similar. For example, other thing is, for example, here, this is the storyboard of the main story of the game. For example, here we receive some influence from Portal. Okay, it's not the same, but it's quite similar. The idea of the story is quite similar to Half-Life, No, is some scientists who are making very serious research, and then something strange happen, and all the scientists die, and the evil aliens comes to the earth and try to destroy the city. It's quite similar. It's not the same, but it's quite similar. So let's return to the PPT and continue with the logic sketch. Okay, in the same way that we make art sketch to visualize how the art will look like, we make logic sketch to visualize how the features will be implemented. This logic sketch is very useful for programmers because it gives us a clear understanding how the features should be coded. For example, here is the basic logic of the ray weapon. So let me show you. So this is the behavior that I'm talking about. Okay, this behavior of the ray weapon is basically this code. It's basically this logic sketch. So every single feature have a logic sketch. The process is, first we make a logic sketch, and then the programmer implement. A logic sketch, implement. That's the system we use to implement every single feature in this game. So this is the end of my presentation. I really hope you enjoyed this making of video of We Are Not Alone. We enjoy making this game. If you haven't played the game, visit our sponsor's website. You will find the link in the description of this video, in the description below. So try the game, and I'm sure if you like sci-fi games, as I do, you will like this game. So thanks for your time, and I hope to see you again in other making of video. Goodbye.